92%. That's the number of women over 35 whose bodies have quietly switched off the internal system responsible for burning fat. Not slowed it down, not weakened it, switched it off entirely. And the most disturbing part? It has nothing to do with your hormones, nothing to do with your thyroid, and absolutely nothing to do with willpower. For the last 2 decades, researchers have been pointing to something far more specific. A communication network inside your body that controls every metabolic decision you make. When to burn fat, when to store it, when to feel full, when to crave sugar at midnight. And for 92% of women in the Western world, that network goes silent somewhere between the ages of 35 and 45. Not because of aging, because of something that was taken from your food supply without anyone telling you. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what that system is, why it stopped working, and what a remote village in Uganda revealed about reactivating it. A discovery that Cambridge researchers have since validated, and that the $300 billion diet industry has every financial reason to keep buried. Stay with me. What you're about to learn changes everything you thought you knew about your own body. Think about the last time losing weight felt effortless. Not easy. Effortless. Like your body was on your side. For most women, that memory lives somewhere in their late 20s or early 30s. Then something shifted. The scales stopped responding. The energy disappeared. The hunger became relentless and irrational. Not the hunger of an empty stomach, but a deep, cellular craving that no amount of food could fully silence. You started eating less, you started moving more, and the weight stayed, or came back within weeks of leaving. In the United States alone, 47 million women between the ages of 35 and 60 are currently trapped in this exact cycle. They spend an average of $2,800 per year on diets, supplements, gym memberships, and meal plans. And 95 out of every 100 of them will weigh the same or more within 12 months. Not because they lack discipline, because they are fighting a battle without knowing what they're actually fighting against. If any of this sounds familiar, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. You'd be surprised how many women across the world are in the exact same place right now. Here's what the science actually shows. Your body doesn't gain or lose weight randomly. It receives signals. Internal biological signals that function like a communication network between your gut, your brain, your hormones, and your fat cells. Researchers call this the BioSignal Network, and it is the master controller of your metabolism. It decides whether the meal you just ate becomes energy or fat. It regulates how long you feel full. It calibrates your energy levels throughout the day. It governs whether your body runs efficiently or runs on fumes. When this network is functioning, weight management is almost automatic. When it breaks down, nothing works. Not calorie restriction, not exercise, not intermittent fasting, because all of those strategies assume the network is operational. And for 92% of women over 35, it simply isn't. The question is, who is responsible for breaking it? The diet industry generates $300 billion every single year. And here's what they don't advertise in their before and after photos. Their business model depends entirely on your failure. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition tracked 29 major commercial diet programs and found that not one produced statistically significant weight loss after 2 years. Not one. Yet these same companies spend $2 billion annually on marketing to convince you to try again. New name, new packaging, same result. They removed resistant starch, the exact compound that feeds the BioSignal network, from processed foods decades ago. Ultra-processing destroys it. And 73% of calories consumed by the average American woman come from ultra-processed foods. This didn't happen by accident. Food that leaves you satisfied means food you buy less of. Food that keeps you craving means food you buy more of. While the diet industry makes $300 billion a year, you're still trapped in the same cycle of frustration they designed. They know restrictive diets have a 95% failure rate, and they keep selling anyway. Because your failure is their business model. Her name doesn't matter. What matters is that you'll recognize her. A 49-year-old woman, a nurse actually, who had spent 14 years trying to lose the same 40 pounds. She knew more about nutrition than most people in her hospital. She could recite macros, glycemic indexes, metabolic rates. She did everything right. She woke up at 5:30 a.m. She measured her food. She ran 4 days a week for 3 years straight. And every morning, she stood in front of the mirror in her bathroom and didn't recognize the woman looking back. She stopped attending her daughter's school events because she couldn't bear the photos. She wore the same 3 oversized cardigans to work because they were the only things that didn't make her feel exposed. At night, every night, she fought a losing battle against cravings so powerful they felt like something outside of her own will. She would lie awake at 2 a.m. thinking about what she'd eaten, calculating, bargaining, hating herself. She wasn't failing. She was running a race with no finish line, in a body whose signals had gone completely dark. She tried keto. She lost 11 pounds in 6 weeks and gained 14 back by month 4. She tried intermittent fasting. Her energy crashed so severely she had to stop taking overnight shifts. She tried a popular meal replacement program, the kind with the colorful packaging and the celebrity endorsement, and lasted 8 weeks before the hunger became unbearable. Each time, she blamed herself. Each time, the science was actually explaining exactly why these approaches couldn't work. Keto restricts calories, but does nothing to repair the signaling system. So the moment restriction lifts, the body, still operating on a broken network, returns to its default state of storage. Intermittent fasting creates stress on a system already under-resourced. Meal replacements flood the body with synthetic nutrients while starving the gut microbiome of the specific fibers it needs to produce the compounds that regulate hunger. These aren't personal failures. They are structural failures. Solutions built for a body whose internal communication is intact, sold to women whose internal communication went dark years ago. Until researchers began asking a different question entirely. In 2019, a team of scientists from Cambridge University began studying metabolic data from rural communities in sub-Saharan Africa. Specifically, women from a village in Uganda whose traditional diet centered on matoke, a preparation of green, unripe bananas. What they found was medically extraordinary. These women showed virtually no incidence of metabolic dysfunction, no obesity, no insulin resistance, no reported experience of uncontrollable hunger or energy crashes. Women in their 50s and 60s with metabolic profiles that looked, biochemically, like women in their 30s. The variable that separated them was not genetics. It was not exercise. It was a single class of carbohydrate almost entirely absent from the modern Western diet. Resistant starch type 2, known as RS2. Unlike regular starch, RS2 is not digested in the small intestine. It travels intact to the colon, where it feeds a specific community of bacteria, Akkermansia mucinifera, Bifidobacterium infantis, Clostridium butyricum, that then produce a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate. Butyrate, the Cambridge team concluded, functions as what they described as the metabolic thermostat. It communicates directly with fat cells, instructing them to oxidize rather than store. It regulates the production of leptin and ghrelin, the hormones that tell your brain you are full or hungry. It repairs the gut lining, reducing the low-grade inflammation that forces the body into a perpetual defensive state of fat storage. And critically, it reactivates the BioSignal Network, the internal communication system that, without RS2, goes completely silent. The Ugandan women weren't doing anything mystical. They were feeding their microbiome exactly what it needed. and their bodies were responding with exactly the metabolic behavior nature designed. That nurse? 6 months after she learned about RS2 and began restoring it through her diet, she lost 31 pounds. But the number is the least interesting part of what happened. The cravings stopped at week 3. Not reduced. Stopped. She described it as a switch being flipped. She started sleeping through the night for the first time in 8 years. The afternoon energy crashes that had defined her days for over a decade disappeared entirely. She went to her daughter's graduation in a dress she bought specifically for the occasion, and she stood in every photograph. 2 of her colleagues at the hospital, both in their mid-40s, reported similar outcomes within 90 days of addressing the same deficiency. A 52-year-old teacher who had been told by her doctor that her metabolism was just slowing down with age saw her fasting insulin drop to healthy ranges within 8 weeks. A 44-year-old woman who had been on appetite suppressants for 3 years discontinued them under medical supervision after her hunger signals normalized. These are not anecdotes disconnected from science. They are precisely what the Cambridge data predicted would happen when the BioSignal Network is given what it needs to function. The answer was never fewer calories. It was never more willpower. It was a missing signal. Quiet, invisible, and fixable. What you've just learned is information that took researchers years to find, and that a multi-billion-dollar industry has spent decades making sure never reached you. Your body did not betray you. It was deprived of a compound it needs to function, and it responded exactly as biology would predict. The BioSignal Network is not broken permanently. It is dormant, and RS2 is the key to reactivating it. Women who restore this compound report not just weight loss, but the return of something deeper. The feeling of living in a body that works with them instead of against them. Energy that doesn't crash. Hunger that responds to actual need. A metabolism that finally, after years of silence, begins to speak again. If you want to understand exactly how to restore this compound and reactivate your own BioSignal network, I've left a complete resource pinned in the first comment of this video. It covers everything the research points to, and everything the diet industry never will. 92% of women over 35 have lost this signal. You now know why. And more importantly, you know it can come back.